So ma'am, while we're talking about this, you have the US economy in recovery mode. There's talk of flight of capital, the fear of flight of capital. You've of course taken a big step with the abolishment of the dividend distribution tax. But do you think more could have been done to make sure that our capital markets indeed stay very robust? For example, there was a large expectation around the long-term capital gains tax. As it is, we're not collecting that much on it, but just it could have been acted as a sentiment booster.
At this rate, you'll tell me everything that which is not done and forget what I've done. Even before the day is over, you've forgotten what I've done in the form of removing DDT. I would want you to keep that alive for some more time. Even that aims at the markets.
Because of the flight of capital, the fear of flight of capital.
That's all very well taken. The point is, I've addressed DDT. I've addressed personal income tax. I've addressed corporate tax. And all at a time when you were telling me situation is challenging, economy is going through a tough time. Even in spite of all that, we have been bold enough to take a considered call on all this. I would appeal to you to highlight these rather than about LTCG.
There's an attempt to catch rich people who are trying to escape tax and become NRIs. You increase the definition of NRI from 182 days abroad to 240 days abroad. And there appears to be that if somebody is in a zero tax jurisdiction, he will pay tax on what? On his all India income, all world income, and by doing, this is an interesting idea. The question is, then will people simply give up citizenship altogether, and then you lose whatever little that you get? So do you have any numbers on how many people do you think you can catch by this particular device,
it's
and what revenue?
It's not a question of catching. It's more a question of recognizing that here is an area in which, for want of clarity, you are losing out on a lot of people who are neither paying here nor paying elsewhere.
So I think it's very clear. They want to escape tax.
But then if my taxes are now so favorable, I would rather have them be here and do, because obviously they have a market here, they have a base here, they have economic activity here of their area, specialisms. So I would want them to be here and pay tax also. Now if the rates are unfavorable and they're going out, you can blame me. I'm changing the rates to favorable rates. I'd rather have them come.
But no estimate of how many you will get and how much revenue?
There is, obviously. In government, nothing works without estimates. Otherwise, it's not justified in the cabinet when we take a call. It has to be justified in the cabinet also.
Ma'am, but for this entire rule that you've come out with, that they must pay tax somewhere and you want them to pay tax here.
Being NRIs.
This is also a category which is perhaps under the super rich, 42%. They're looking for cheaper tax domiciles. And that is why perhaps that they've gone. So is this again part of this, not a witch hunt, but the government's attempt also as a surgical strike against black money? Because
no, that's not true. That's not true. I think this time I've used the income tax to send this clear message and give a direction that middle income groups, lower middle income groups should have more money in their hands. And I've also taken this big call on removing a lot of exemptions. Over the years, 120 exemptions. Even before you go, I'll give you a list of exemptions this country's direct taxation code is laden with. We have removed about 70 of them. And because it's so indispensable, we brought some into the newer system. I could have very well said, in another 3 or 4 years, we will simplify the direct taxation, the personal income tax, and we'll come up with a very simple framework. I could have said that. But if I were to do it after 3 years, why say it? And if I do it now, I will have to do it as much as clearly serving the purpose of simplifying the tax.
No, ma'am, the point I was trying to make was you've also changed the rules of the residency. You've changed the number of dates that will be counted for what will be an NRI
and resident.
That.
I understand your question.
So, but my point was also that to make sure that the people who are used to not paying taxes, but they do their dhanda here, they do their business here, isn't that the real attempt to catch them?
I don't want to use the word catch. You're doing dhanda here, using your expression. Your business is here, your interests
so they
are
ought to
here.
Pay taxes.
You will help the country. Paying a tax is not a punishment. If the rates are very high, yes, it's a punishment. If I'm bringing down to reasonable rates, wouldn't you want to give that money towards building India?
The fertilizer subsidy has always been a very politically charged one. You have taken courage enough to say you will bring down the fertilizer subsidy. Hopefully, this will encourage the use of manure and other organic fertilizers. Having made the start, it's not clear to me how much are you going to reduce the fertilizer subsidy this year, and do you see it going down to zero over the years?
We are, in fact, through the ministry, spending a lot of time engaging with the stakeholders to understand how best it can be rationalized. I've had quite a few of those sittings. I have not specified the numbers yet in the budget because we are talking to a lot of people to see how best, because at the moment even the modus is questionable. Because you're giving it through the companies which are all right. There was a time when you needed them. There's a time when there's even now a lot of need for it, chemical fertilizers. Today, when the emphasis is moving towards organic, we also should see how there can be a reasonable combination of the two rather than overload our lands with chemical fertilizers.
Yeah.